This is all over the place. Here we go. Oh! Good morning. I'm here. I made it. Welcome to Who Am I? Sometimes I have technical difficulties, and it takes me a minute to find my way. But I am here, and I'm glad to be here. Good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? What is Who Am I? Who Am I is my own little invention. I myself am just taking a little pure positive foray into what I find really interesting questions. It's sort of like my own 1 hour personal oral meditation on who am I? What is my identity? And then as soon as the show's over, then I click everything off and I walk out of my studio and I go try to do whatever it is that I think that my life is. So for an hour or so, we are going to riff about the nature of reality and the nature of our own configuration, if you will. We're going to pull together 2 great disciplines of thought. Now, one is coming from a body of work created by Esther Hicks, and her particular, what she's trying to say about law of attraction. As insofar as, we are vibrational beings in a vibrational universe, and you have an inner being that is important to get into alignment with, because whether you are or whether you aren't in alignment with this inner being is the meaning of your positive and negative emotions. It's your guidance system, your GPS guidance system in this world. And she talks about the vortex of creation. She talks about the steps of creation. Step 1, contrast, variety, stuff you like and stuff you don't like, causes you to focus, but causes you to ask, she says. Ask and it is given. Ask. The very act of the feeling of that negative emotion implies the positive one that you're looking for. And now your inner being is holding that frequency and calling you to that one, the positive one. Ask and it is given. Steps of creation. Contrast causes you to ask. Step 2, source answers. It's a vibrational process. And now your job is to either figure out a way to allow what has been given to flow into your experience. Don't block it with your negativity, with your doubt, and be creative about and open about how you imagine it might be coming to you, because the universe is vibrational. There's many more avenues that the universe can give you what you want and need than perhaps the one you might be staring at. What am I talking about? Say if you are asking for abundance because you have so much scarcity, you want abundance. You're crying out, screaming out for abundance. But the way you're imagining it is that abundance, must equal money. I don't have any money. I need money. And so you stare at your bank account and it doesn't get any bigger. And so you imagine that the universe is not answering you, when from all around you there may be all kinds of ways that she's trying to answer you. If you were clever, if you were in alignment with her, you would feel the impulse, get the idea, turn and look, and there it would be. But in your determination that it's not happening, you're scowling, you're looking in the wrong direction, and, tapping your foot and folding your arms, and it's not happening, and you're like, well, that's the way it is. Scarcity abounds. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to find a way to get into alignment with the answer and allow it to flow into your experience. And so the first part of step one is your job, living in this world, and being willing to inflict conflict. No, that's not the right way to put it. Contrast, not conflict. Being willing to exist in a physical world that is both things you like and things you don't like. Step one, asking for more, for better. You live in a war zone. The more you're asking for is peace, damn it. You live in a world of ignorance, and the more you're asking for is intelligence. Damn it. Let's build that better world, IBM. I'm ready. The first thing we got to do is understand this world. Understand who we are. And I do very heartily believe that that is the first step. And as long as we do not understand ourselves, that will be the lesson that is looming in front of us. And it will be taught again in a harsh way if we are ignorant like we were a century ago. I personally don't think that it has to come to that, because we did have that experience once, and although everyone is not alerted to the, hey, this is what it looked like, we will go all the way to the most monstrous levels if we let this stay unconscious. But the answer, oddly, is not getting all up in arms and hyper aware of all the threats. Because it occurred to me quite a while ago. It doesn't occur to me right in this minute. I was thinking this morning about how do I convey this thought, because it's actually a really interesting one. And it illustrates how everything is always working out for us. And it is working out for mankind, who is on a pedagogical path of maturation. We are, I'm not sure exactly where we might be. Western civilization might be in their adolescence. It's possible. I don't know. I'm hoping that we're a little farther down the road. It all depends on where you're looking. There is a great awakening of consciousness happening across planet Earth, I believe. And the way you can tell is turn on YouTube and, Google any of these topics, and the level of spiritual maturity out there is growing. It really is. There's a level of self-awareness that we are getting that is most heartening. But this idea that I got was, as I realized what we have been doing just for fun, what human beings do for fun, and what we have been doing madly for fun over the last 100 years, has brought us things like movies, television, sitcoms, the internet, cat videos, masterpiece theater, period pieces. There's all kinds of, and what so what was that World War last century? What was that actually an expression of? What happened when we... I'm going to boil it down to a real general, fundamental level. Real super duper general. But there's a reason why I bring it to this level. What happened is we collectively turned in a direction. Half of us turned towards the one half, and the other half turned towards us. And we looked at each other angrily. We looked at each other in negative emotion and believed certain things. So we focused in a negative way and believed certain negative things, and then acted. Acted in our anger and in our fright, our hatred, our fear, all of that. We acted from our negative emotion in a focused way, all in agreement that over there, I'm pointing at that group of people over there, that they were the enemy. And they had to be stopped. And if they were stopped, then the world would be safe again. Now, actually, World War II ended up being a more focused version of that. In World War I, it wasn't quite that, but there were players who believed that. Well, no, it was still that. The all of us focusing on the enemy. Anyway, if you are a fan of the show, you know that I like to use the verbiage of only one world war, and there was parts 1 and 2 of the one world war. Cross your fingers and hope, pray that there is not another one. We should not have another world war. I actually don't think that our president now is intent on domination. He's not a Hitler type. He's more of a well, I don't want to get sidetracked on my great vision, because what we have been doing for the last century is putting out a million more ways for our attention to go. Diversity of attention. It was actually quite startling for a minute the way our attention was able to be focused for a minute. And for a while, it was just done lightly. And it was such an intense power of our focus because there was only like one medium, television. You know, there was the 3 networks, and then came along the UVA, ultra high frequency, UHF channel. There was like a UHF channel, and then there was a couple more later, but nobody watched them. There was very little going on out there. And at like midnight or whatever, it all turned off. 1 o'clock in the morning, it all went off until like 4 when it came back on. 5 o'clock came on. It was Romper Room and Captain Kangaroo and stuff. That was for parents, you know, who are up really early with children, you know. It was a different day. And it was also really interesting because there was a moment when like 60 million people at the same time were watching Lucy tell Ricky that she was pregnant, you know, stuff like that. Watch her chase those candies, you know, across that conveyor belt. 60 million people, because there wasn't a lot of stuff. Now, since that's what happened when the wars happened, we had very few directions of perspective. You know, some newspapers, we all collectively kind of agreed on who we were and the general story. And so when we went negative, a great deal of us believed it. And then, anyway, I believe that what has happened over the last century, to make it less likely that we're ever going to do that again, is there are now millions of directions that your attention can go to on the dozens of platforms in all kinds of different directions from every subject you can be thinking. And we've been through a lot more. There's a lot more of us who have studied our history, who recognize, we don't want to keep doing this. This is who we are. We do not want to repeat the war thing. We need to understand it. We need to understand who we are. We need to understand our emotions. We need to understand fundamentally the structure of the universe and the grid and the matrix immediately around me, so that I can immediately understand how to play my equations with my family. You know, at some point in my existence, it's going to be my caregivers, whoever it is, whether it turns out to be an actual family member or just someone that we have all paid for to be a professional caregiver, to watch my, you know, whatever, make sure I eat and drink and don't fall and, you know, I'm cleaned up. Remember to, I don't know. You get the idea. Anyway, so who am I? Who am I? My attention is drawn to the. Have I finished my talk about? So the idea is the things that we have done for entertainment, for our pleasure. Now, maybe it was some of us inventing things for the pleasure of others, and then we all do it because it's fun. Watch TV, go to the movies, that kind of stuff. Now it's watch cat videos, and it's even more than that. See, my attention doesn't even have to be listening to everybody else. I can have my free broadcasting software, and I'm now broadcasting, creating yet another place for consciousness to go. Isn't it also interesting? And we just don't, we don't all agree on we're good, he's bad. And we shouldn't, because frankly, there is only human beings. And yes, it is true. There are bad players. There are chaotic players. There are players who seem to be agents of chaos. But I think it's really important that we collectively understand the nature of chaos to begin with. Chaos and coherence. What the heck is causing one? And how do we get more of the other one without imposing... and we don't want to be imposing an order from without. We want to be understanding how to follow that blooming order from within by understanding who we are and how to follow our own damn guidance system. What is source energy? What is my greater vibrational self? Abraham talks a lot of the other body of work I'm going to be pulling together in the discussion today and all days is the unified physics, the mathematics and physics of the unified physics of Nassim Haramein and all of his work over there, his organization now, I believe he's developed a number of things, the International Space Federation, I believe is but he also as far as an internet website goes, the Resonance Science Foundation has a great deal of stuff going on over on their website too, and you can go find all of that if you have any sort of credulousness or if you have any allowance in your heart, if you can open up your mind and think to yourself, well, I don't know if I'm going to buy the whole thing, but I wonder what it is. I wonder what he's saying. If you will even open up your mind that big a crack and then go look at it, you go, oh, look. It's actually, I'm looking at the same thing from different scales. And when you look at it from at the quantum scale, and you look at those forces that are holding the atom together at the quantum scale, that's gravity. That's gravity. If you would take that scale and you make it bigger, take the quantum scale and blow it to the size of the universe. Now look at the density of the matter and the gravitational whatever. You look at all the numbers and they are the right numbers. And they're not just the right numbers for the visible matter. They're right numbers for the visible matter plus the dark matter and the dark energy, which is just a fudge factor anyway, added in because we don't know what's holding the universe together. What's holding the universe together is the spin. Spin is holding it together. And the whole thing is spinning together, and that's source energy. And then you have your own little self that you need to get into alignment with your greater self. Your greater self, which is spinning with the greater wholeness of the field, the pull of the field around you. You are in charge of your own little self, it's true. And you are creating your very own little tiny universal reality that's your own little journey, You're creating your own path. You're walking your own path. You're illuminating your own path. You're telling your own story. You're spinning your own little thing over here. You got your own thing going on. But that thing that you got going on is going on in a bigger frame that includes everybody else. You know, we're all in this together. We are all in this together. But you have control over the only thing you ever needed to have control over. And that's your own self, your own path, and quite frankly, whether or not you are in alignment with your own self. You have more than one self in there, and are they in alignment or are they at cross purposes to one another? Is one looking at certain things and joyfully frolicking in this one venture over here while you are determined to keep your eyes focused on what you're afraid of and what you don't want, and you're all grumpy or frightened, or you're retracting into yourself or whatever. You don't have the courage to be yourself. Well, the only thing that you really need to pay any attention to, and that is your own alignment. Your own alignment. And you might ask the question, that begs the question, alignment between what and what? What are we talking about? And this is implying the structure of you. Think about this. And what I think is going on, I think that inner being, what she actually is yourself at a larger scale. And the only way that you can be anything at a larger scale is it has to be bigger than, the boundaries of your own physical body, the brain that, is encased in your own physical skull. Your broader perspective is the next data stream bigger than that, because honestly, you are a flow of data and information, and that information and flow of data that you are is flowing from and through and from your experience up into the lexicon of the whole, who knows who we all are. And you are also that. You are your smaller self and you are your larger self. You are your smallness and your allness. That is what your inner being is. And your inner being is only looking at positive things. Your inner being is never looking at negative things. There is no such thing as a negative thing from where your inner being is standing, because she's standing in a place where she recognizes that the whole thing is made of plonks. Those plonks can form into whatever, like Play-Doh or Legos, can link together in whatever material form is wanted. Once the consciousness involved understands the field, what the field's made of, how it moves, that it moves on desire. It's looking at what we want, what we all want. All of us, even your enemies. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing every one of us has to get over is this notion that our enemies must not win. And the thing is our enemies must not win if what you're talking about is a win-lose paradigm. But what happens if we're talking about a win-win? Are you okay with your enemy winning if you get to win too? Or is it really, really necessary that your enemies lose? And you know what? That's a big problem with our negative self. Our negative self wants our enemies to eat dirt, eat shit and die, and I can see this in a number of arenas of several people, both that I know personally and then know at a slightly larger distance, family members but not really close up in experience, close to my siblings' experience. And then looking at us collectively and politically and who might be running the show. You know, the idea of when you are playing the game as though it's a win-lose, and I'm in direct competition with people that I want them to eat shit and fail, then that in itself gets in the way of what is actually in our blessed, abundant future, which is us recognizing that it's all us. It's all us, and we need to understand how these negative and positive energies flow so that we can put the demons, back into the genie bottles, or chain the demon Xanth back under the state of Florida. If you ever read the Piers Anthony series, the Xanth series, Xanth, full of puns. If you were into puns, by about the 20th book, it started to wear thin to me. But the whole notion that he is coming from is quite profound if you step back and really let your whole self absorb what he's talking about. There's a lot of wonderful analogies in there. We need to understand how we are creating demonic energies around us, how these storms of chaos and storms of coherence, or you don't have to call the coherent ones storms, I suppose. They're all organization. It's all about organization. Fundamentally, it comes all the way down to, and then what am I organizing? And what's the spirit at the center of this birth of this organization that I am starting with this intention that I am putting forward? What is at the center of it? Is it pure? Are the intentions pure? Or is there some falsehood in there that it, through time, is finally going to really start to have a problem? Trump, in a way, is the great smasher. He's the great wrecker. And, I went over to one of the channels. It's a political... It's not the conservative one, but supposedly the left-wing one. It's all, whatever. They're all clutching their pearls about all of the things that Trump is interrupting as it has to do with grants and the flow of money and research and, the chain of the search for cures for all of these diseases and stuff. And part of me, while I understand why they're upset, and they think that they are upset about institutions and organizations that are purely, seeking only the health and welfare of mankind, and somehow don't have a weird life of their own now that is pushing their own particular perspective of the universe and the world, which is not necessarily one that I even share. I think that we are energy beings, and I don't think that pharmaceuticals and chemistry is actually the best way to handle our illnesses. I think first understanding who we are from a consciousness point of view, and from a physics point of view, and from an actual, what is this actual energy matrix doing point of view, is the most important thing we could do first. And then from that position, all of the implications of what is possible from this really miraculous perspective. Because who we really are, each and every one of us, is a continuum of data and a flow of information that is connected to the whole field around us, and connected to all of the past behind us, and coalescing the future in front of us. And it's actually a vibrational project. And the vibration of the thing precedes the manifestation of it. And the manifestation, the physical world, is actually a secondary effect of the primary one, which is vibrational. And that's how come Abraham seems to stand in a place with all of these non-physical consciousnesses, aware of what's coming next, because they can see they're in the vibrational world, and so they can tell what's coming next in the physical world, because the vibration always precedes the physical. Now, just because it's in the future does not mean there's not bumps, or there's not the potential of terrible bumps in front of us. So, like, you could have been standing in Abraham's position in around 1935, or 1922, or 1917, or, well, let's just back up well in front of the Holocaust. And while you can see, actually, there's a wonderful quote, and I don't remember the exact quote, and I don't want to, my mouse has been really bouncy, so I don't want to try to go to anywhere. But there's a quote that Milton Mayer did in his book, They Thought They Were Free. And that was written in the early 50s, and yeah, he's remembering what it was like to be in Nazi Germany as the whole thing unfolded. And he points out that at one point they realize that they've been focusing on forms, and it's actually the spirit has changed right out from underneath them, and they never noticed it because they spent all their time focusing on the forms. The holidays and the houses and the jobs and the songs and the whatever the examples that he says. And he says it really quite beautifully and poignantly. But it illustrates the fact that the vibration of things comes first. And so you lead the way with the way you want to feel about where it is you're going. You lead with that one. You lead with that. And so now how do you do that? Well, I've had a lifetime's worth of trying to figure that one out. And I spent a lot of time looking at a lot of things that I didn't like. And so I am indeed aware that the world is capable of producing horrors beyond any necessity to imagine horrors that deep. You just know that the abyss is bottomless. If you want to go down that pit, there's no bottom to it. And if you persist in it, you'll end up, drowning all 5 of your children to save them from the horrors of the world. There was somebody who did that. I mentioned that a number of times, not because I did that, but because there have been people who have been driven to that kind of extreme behavior, and what's causing it is they're allowing their thoughts to spiral into really, really dark places as they think about and ruminate on physically how bad it can get. Now, I'm going to grant you that it can get that bad, and it is that bad in some places. But a fuller understanding of what's actually going on can lead us out of this wilderness and into a place where we understand ourselves, and we learn that focus and attention is really important. It's what's bringing the physical manifestation to us. What we care about, what we're looking at, what we're thinking about, what we care about. All those things, as we focus in those directions, are bringing us our physical world, the shape of it, especially human beings, especially the human world, because we are so... The world that we create around us can change so quickly, and we are the ones, it's so artificial, although artificial is also natural because we're natural creatures, although we're not completely natural creatures because I believe we have been genetically modified. Somebody, somewhere, somehow has given us a boost in our mental, our neocortex has been plumped up artificially. At least I believe that, and I think that it explains why we struggle to get along in this world, and we don't seem to have an ancient memory of how we belong. We don't seem to have that, and I think it's because we did a little jump. But the field is still the field, and the way we're designed is still the way we're designed. And I think that we're just more culture dependent now. We need the story to explain to us who and what we really are. And very importantly, we need an explanation of our positive and negative self. What is our negative self? When parts of us turn negative, what does that mean? Are they the enemy? And now we have to punish them. We need to make sure that they know that we don't like that and they never want to do it, or whatever. I don't know. What is the meaning of our criminal justice system? The way that we handle the things that we handle. I'll tell you what the meaning of it is that people go chaotic and we don't know how to stop that. And they are a danger to themselves and others, you know, as they arm up and then shoot 500 people from a building in Vegas, or, you know, they set off bombs in the middle of marathons or transportation systems, or, you know, whatever. There's all kinds of things that human beings will do when they go into the chaotic mode. And so I think it's really important that we understand what that is and how it relates to the greater self that we really are. And how, you know, they're not wrong in a way. Everybody's right. Even the chaotic ones are right in a way. However, the chaos isn't really what any of us are looking for, not even them. You know, but you get to that point where you see what's going on and you get so frustrated, and so, you know, with the disorder of things, you know, like our military industrial complex that lives on and seems to have this idea about enemies, us and them, and how to solve problems. And the philosophy from which it's coming from is not anything that I agree with, but I understand why it's sitting there. I get it. As a matter of fact, go back a number of decades, every single one of my father's 10 brothers, there were 11 boys and 2 girls in a field of 13 children, and all 11 of those boys served in one of the military services in one of our wars. And Grandpa served in World War I, you know? I mean, I come from a long family of proud military heritage, and my own father served in and he's still alive. Just had his 99th birthday last weekend, and I'm very proud of all that. But I want us as human beings to understand that was then and this is now, and the monster that we are, or that we've got to understand who we really are and how the whole thing plays together. And so I keep going back to the concept of the inner being, and Nassim Harameyn's work gives me some fuel or information or a basis to imagine what that inner being might actually be. Since I am a flow of data and information, and I am a continuum, by the way. And there is a part of me, an energy part of me, that knows exactly who I am, what I was, how I connect to all things. You know, we all have that. We are all that. It is holographic. The universe is holographic, and you are holographic. And so you have your inner being is your larger self. So you have the universe comes in scales, and you come in scales. When you look at the universe at the quantum scale, that force that holds the atoms together, that's gravity. It's gravity at the quantum scale. And now look at it at the universal scale. And then you get those numbers. And they actually dovetail perfectly with one another. It's like one is a factor of the other. You know? It's almost like that. Maybe it is exactly like that. I don't know. But your inner being is also like that. It is a factor of you. It's a larger self that you are, and she's guiding you. And what is she trying to guide you to? She's trying to guide you to everything that you want. To things that you would like. To things that relate to that which you have declared that you love. She's trying to guide you to what you need also. There are things that you need in order to continue as a being in this physical state that you are in this moment. Now, I call my show Who Am I? And we're talking about the I am. I am fill in the blank. It's like an identity point. Who are you identifying with? And what are you identifying as? And as that moves around, you find your access to different information fields fluctuates. As you click into this I am or that I am. And then there's the set of all sets, which is the grand I am, which I am that, but you are too. So, it's not like when you get to that scale, we're all there. We're all that. And a bag of chips. So anyway, so what is it? Largely as human beings, we are encouraged to identify only with our physical body. And so we think things like excuse me. We think things like, I was born such and such a time, and then at such and such a date, I will likely die, or at some point I will die, and that those bookends border who I am. That's who I am, and I only get one shot at this. Now, it's interesting because in a way that's not wrong. Because part of who you are is indeed this physical self that you find yourself in this moment. It is. It's true. And that particular iteration of you was born on a particular date, and likely, unless she becomes part of really big understandings that understand how cellular coherence can actually be held, what coherence is and what causes things to fall into incoherence, what causes your cells to deteriorate as opposed to being able to hold their integrity for an indefinite period of time. If you're part of that school of thought, if you end up being there, then maybe in 1,000 years I am still here. Will I be here forever and ever? Probably not, unless I figure out how I am who I am, and can either coalesce in and out of physical bodies, on demand, or leave my physical body completely out of it altogether. Otherwise, you probably can't figure out how to be a permanent, because it's one of the rules, it's one of the 5 rules of the game. Everything changes, except for the rules. The rolling manifestation is always rolling. It is always changing. That's one of the rules. What are the other rules? Everything is here and now. You exist. There's nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. Nothing you can do to change that. The all are one. The one is all. Nothing you can do to change that. What you put out is what you get back. And there's nothing you can do to change that rule. So whatever you put out, that's your vibrational offering. That is, you are in a matrix connection, in a love connection with the rest of the universe. You really are. And you're sending out a signal to that universe. And it is either clear, and it is your signal of, this is what I love, this is what I want, this is my desire, this is my belief. Well, Forget about the belief one, because that's the one that's going to mess it up, if anything does. But if you're just sending out an unconflicted signal to the universe, to the best of its ability, whatever it's got going on right now is going to start organizing your way in response to your desires. Because the whole field is doing that. The whole field wants the whole field to get what the whole field wants. Because then the whole field is happy. And that is ever so much better than just one being happy while the whole rest of the field is screwed. You know, it's actually a very, very blessed organizational structure that we've got going on here in this magnificent, fully interactive universe that we find ourselves embedded in and dancing with. And I believe that we would be better served, instead of scanning the physical ground from the outside, trying to identify the bad players and then make sure that those all get what they deserve, them sons of bitches, damn it, or whatever harsh thing you're thinking. We would be better served to scan ourselves from the inside and then look at the outside structure, figure out how it works, figure out how to get the peace that we all want, and the understanding and the cooperation and the everybody enthusiastically being a part of this big project. People don't want to be part of project status quo because so many of the players have been dealt out, as the ones at the top are just self-serving themselves, because they don't realize that they actually are part of a greater field, and they need to play nice like part of a greater field. And honestly, assisting everyone else to their abundance only creates a greater level of exponential abundance for all of us. There's no lack. It's only when you see it as a finite pie. It's only when you see it as a competition between you and me, between the scraps that are in existence, instead of recognizing the whole system as an abundance creation machine beyond our wildest imagination. And the technology that human beings could be dreaming up, instead of just trying to find incrementally better ways to, do our viewing platforms or, little features on our phones or our cameras or whatever, so that we can make, and then figure out ways we can infiltrate each other's data, or figure out more and more clever ways of planned obsolescence, so that we can make you buy yet another $1,000 phone next year, and another one, and another one, and another one, further depleting resources that are seen as more and more finite. That's what the problem is. We are not living in we're not playing it like the paradigm it could be. We're not mining the resources fully the way we could be. And there are people playing in the structure right now who are holding certain cards, and they're not letting them go. It is time for us to get past fossil fuel. And the way we do it is just keep using the fossil fuel for now if you need to. But while you're using the fossil fuel, make sure that you are in a laboratory somewhere, or thinking about or working towards somehow bringing into our future, into our present, this future of clean, free energy. I'm not a physicist. I am only trying to get the word out, and the word is clean, free energy is possible. It's the one thing I'm afraid to label my videos. I'm afraid of saying it quite baldly like that, because I don't want the eye of someone who doesn't want me to succeed, because they're holding, basically, if you are holding all the cards, if you are if you own Exxon, or are the CEO, you have the managing control of whatever these forces at the top of our fossil fuel industries. You have in your hands physical conditional control over a whole lot of things. You have the ability to send you and all your family and all your wife's family and all their children and all their grandchildren on 1,000 luxury cruises. You have, well, you can buy the damn billionaire, $1 billion yacht to do it in the first place. You can control the $1 billion yachts that are sailing around the private islands with all of the stuff, all the goods and the technologies that human beings have come up with up to this point. I just got passionate there for a second, and I shouldn't do that. I should keep it at a matter-of-fact level. Because the fact is you don't have to push against that. You've just got to recognize, I could have all the energy I could possibly need. And actually, our energy future is such that I'd get out of oil if I was them and get into the other technologies, because the energy itself is going to be cheap. It's going to be cheap. It's going to be free. It's going to be free. It's going to be a non-issue when we recognize that you just have to build your little technological device in the first place to somehow sync up with the 0-point energy field that is literally everywhere. So maybe you have a little dial that, like a little tuner thing, and you tune something, and that's how your device gets turned on, is you tune in frequencies to, whatever. You got to understand what our universe is. It is frequencies. It is frequencies, and those frequencies either come together, they string together in long frequencies. The universe, the size of the universe is one long, big, huge, one frequency. That's the whole thing. And then a Planck, which is the little ether, the little fundamental building block of the universe, of the universal frequency, is it's ultimately, absolutely short. You can't get a shorter frequency in this density universe. And how you get that frequency is you take a photon going at the speed of light, crossing its own diameter. You can imagine a photon, you can even imagine its diameter, but once you take it at the speed of light and cross its own diameter, you can't imagine a length shorter than that anymore, unless it's a scale of it, as in the sub-Planck, which the sub-Planck is as much smaller than the Planck as the universe is to the Planck. So it goes the sub-Planck, the Planck, the universe. That's one of the scales. And us here at the biological level, interestingly enough, are pretty much halfway between the size of the Planck and the size of the universe. We're right here in the middle. And that's where consciousness arises. That's where biology arises. That's where... Anyway, it's all very, very fascinating. And if we would look at it from a, wow, look at who we are and how this works, from that kind of a perspective, then we would be able to solve all of our problems. We really would be. All of our problems are problems of antisocial behavior, and how do you freaking order everybody? Well, don't order them. That's what you do. One of the nice things about Trump is he is an agent of chaos. He is not an agent of order. And so the order that he is creating over there is a very chaotic one. It's not going to be as fine-tuned even as the one Hitler got going for a while. And in that order, everybody was like, oh, the trains are running on time, and oh, everybody's got a job, and oh, everybody's getting a paycheck, and this is all very good. But then, as it turned out, the engine that was running it was slave labor in the concentration camps, and the room for it to flourish and grow was room where other human beings had been shoved aside. And then, what do you do with them? Well, you decide that you tell the story so that they are subhuman and the world would be better off without them altogether. And then you have permission to industrially exterminate them. And that's what all that shit was last century. And we don't ever want to do that again. You've got to understand that human beings did it. You can't just say, oh, Germans did it, or oh, Nazis did it, or oh, they did it. We did it. And it's only from that level of understanding that you can, have both the humility to take some of that responsibility, while at the same time recognizing our power and our glory and how cool we really are. We don't have to do that again. Hold on a second. I'm going to cough and the oh, I just did. There's nothing I can do about it because my stupid mouse is just so jumpy. So anyway, where do I want to go from here? I wonder what threads I have left in the path behind me that my audience is interested in and wishes that I would go and pick up. I wonder if I have anybody in the auditorium, if you will. I am 56 minutes into the show, so if I don't have anybody over there, then I'll just sign off because it's close to an hour and I've got a wonderful day ahead of me. If there is somebody over there, very exciting, I may respond to that for just a moment. And then let me just make sure I am not paused. Yes, I am doing well. And let's go over to the studio and see what's going on. Yay! I do have an audience. Hi, how's it going? I hope you've enjoyed the show today. I kind of got on a roll there. Part of this is I would like us collectively to recognize a couple of things. First of all, recognize that we do have problems. Just kind of recognize that. But don't spiral in there because focusing on our problems is not actually how to fix our problems. But you got to have some humility. We do have some issues, and there are things that we could understand better. The second thing is, I don't even know. I had a very good show today. I talked a lot about the inner being. I talked a lot about our nature, our vibrational nature. I talked a bit about the physics of it too, in the sense that our inner being could be seen as our ourselves at the cosmological scale. We ourselves come in scales in the same way that the universe is scalar. And consciousness is scalar, and this flow of energy is scalar. And so your inner being is actually, it's you. It's you from exactly where you are, but taking a broader perspective, knowing that you are the whole field. And that if I win and the whole field loses, I have lost because I am more the rest of the field than I am just me. Although I am just me too, From my smaller perspective, I am only me. However, I am actually also the whole thing all the way down to the Planck, because that holographic nature that I am goes all the way to the small, as well as all the way to the large. And that flow of information is who I actually am. And I will not rest, and you will not rest, and we will not rest until we are fully in alignment with this system. And once we are, what was it, Nassim himself that I heard say this? I think it was. We actually will be beings that don't need rules and laws, because each and every one of us will be inspired from where our position is to do exactly what needs to be done, what wants to be done, what we want to be done, what our greater self is in total agreement should be done. And we don't have to have an outside order forcing us to behave. The only reason we do it now is because, different members of us pop into chaos because we don't know who we are, and we don't know how these energies within us work. We don't understand our own guidance system. We think that bad feeling that we feel in response to that condition that we observed is a signal that we must force that condition out there to change. We need to wrestle it to the ground and kill it. Change it. When that's not it at all. The whole message is get into alignment with get yourselves into the same place, get into agreement with yourself. Quit battling from within. It's that internal battle that is causing you to steer your starship into chaotic waters. It's that internal conflict that is causing you to resonate with players who have chaos in them. It's what it all is. The only thing you have to worry about is alignment. And then after that, you don't have to worry about things. Just take impulses and live your loving, joyful, playful life. But get into alignment with who you really are. And how can you tell if you're in alignment? It's not that you're a goody two-shoes. It's not that you're Jesus or Mother Teresa. It's that you're happy. It's that you're happy. So how do you follow your happiness? Follow it as a vibration, and don't be so stuck on exactly what the physicality of it will look like when it comes. Lead with the happy and let the grid fill in around that. Don't scan the grid for those conditions that you are convinced will make you happy, and only when you spot them, give yourself permission to be happy. Find who you are and what your happiness is. Find your unconditional self, because that's who you really are. You are those positive frequencies. That's who you really are. So, anyway, I think that's enough for one day. We've gone just over an hour. I am so glad I had an audience for at least part of the show. And hopefully you know how to go back and watch the first of that show if you missed the front of it. So anyway, until tomorrow, I'm going to go take my grandson. Well, with my daughter, my grandson, and my husband, we're all going to the Children's Museum at the Natural History Museum. It apparently is a wonderful, magical place. And we're going to go have a good time this morning, playing with people that we love. Do more of that yourself. Find a way to find resonance with your inner being. It's who you really, really are. It's who you always are. It's who the larger self of you is. And it's who the smaller self is too. But in any case, I'm going to leave with my favorite quote. You've heard it before. You will hear it again. You are where you are. And where you are is just fine. But where you are doesn't last. And the way you choose to feel determines the direction in which you move. And so, until tomorrow, blessed friends, I hope to be back and ask the question again, who am I? And until then, may the source be with you.